first, I think I come from a family of achievers, and that has kind of been my biggest inspiration so far, and helped me reach where I am. Just to give some background, so my father, he's a decorated army officer. He retired as a brigadier in the army. So I got a lot of leadership aptitude from him. And life was always about a balance of mental and physical fitness. My mother, she's a doctor and she did an MBA from FMS after that. So again, she's been a driving force for me, always challenging the impossible, and she always taught me that gender is never a barrier. So that's been instilled into me. My sister also is a doctor. She did her PhD from Cambridge and she's now settled in London. And she's always pushed me to strive for higher goals and keep challenging myself. And when I look back, I finished my schooling. I'm from Delhi. I finished my schooling and then I joined St. Stephen's Economics Honours, post which I did my Masters in Economics from Delhi School. And I wanted to join the corporate world, and I got an offer from P&G on campus. So the journey started in 2005. I joined P&G sales. At that point in time, I do recall that there were hardly any women in sales, I mean, in P&G or in the industry at large. But challenges have always excited me. It was an uncharted territory, so to say, for a woman, and I wanted to pursue my interests, so I went for it. And the rest has been history. I started in Maharashtra and then I moved to different parts of the country selling FMCG. I've done internal roles, strategy roles. I've done external customer facing roles. I've done shopper innovation roles. And I've had the opportunity to work in India as well as in the ASEAN region. So a very fulfilling journey. And what's kept me going is that with every role I've got the opportunity to build my mastery and to expand my leadership skills. So it's been a very fulfilling 15 years, 10 roles, and a very good variety of learning. And P&G was one of the pioneers. Just the whole concept of getting women into more fields, not just sales, was catching up. But the reality was the infrastructure was just not there. Even when I joined, travel was tough, and the general culture was not very inviting. But especially when you go to trade, etc. But what kept me going, I think, was my passion and my grit and my focus in being successful in whatever I pick up. So there were always ways to overcome challenges. So for example, when I had to travel long distances to visit markets, etc., I'd always make sure that I'm taking the safety stops. I'm carrying all that I need with me. I'm staying in the right places. And when I'm going to trade and interacting, I had my teams with me to support me. So all of that put together, helped me be successful. It's a virtuous cycle when you meet success and then gives you encouragement and you put more effort. So I think first year the learning curve was so steep, and for me that's very important, and I enjoyed it so much that it kept getting the better of me, and that's how it came about. I never recall a time when I thought, oh my god, what is this, what am I doing? There was always a purpose to things, and when there's a purpose, I think you can overcome all challenges. One of the things that I've always believed in is knowledge-based leadership. That's something I believe I try my best to practice. So one thing I always tell people, who are just joining in, that early get your hands dirty, understand, have the depth of understanding of whatever you're pursuing. Get your hands dirty, be curious, penetrate the details, and have that depth of understanding that you train your mind to get insights from data. One thing I've learned is get your hands dirty early so that then you build the knowledge. And everybody, I believe that hierarchy doesn't matter when you have the knowledge and insights. And hence, knowledge based leadership is a model that has always worked for me. The second one is be clear about what you want out of your career. Be clear on what you want, communicate, that's most important. Be proactive about your own career and plan ahead. This is so important. I've always done it. I mean, I'm always thinking about the future of what do I want to do next, which job am I interested in, and have that proactive communication to understand what skills do you need to be successful, and start practicing them and looking for opportunities to learn or hone those skills for the future. So always be future focused and take it in your own hands. Don't drift, because when you drift, anything will come your way. You may like it, you may not like it, and I don't believe that you can put your best foot forward if you're not passionate about something. And the third one, I would say, and more so in sales, since I come from sales, is focus always on the intent versus the position that people have. And I've seen this work, be it external customers, be it even internal strategy, working in teams. I always am open, flexible, and I'm ready to source ideas from anybody, be it the customer or be it another team member or leadership. But I'm always focused on the intent and the commercial aspect of what do we want to achieve versus the position or whose idea was it. So be flexible, have an open mind, and don't get caught up in positions. I think the biggest and the most pertinent one right now is the post-COVID trends and how the retail industry is transforming and will transform, and some of the trends are here to stay. So I'd like to share that some of the truths that have come forward post-COVID. So first and foremost, I think we are seeing some dramatic channel shifts that have happened during the COVID period, and I think that they'll continue. So first, I think the myth of mom and pop stores going out has been busted. They are here to stay. The grocery store around the corner is here to stay for the sheer convenience and proximity that they provide. So while e-commerce will keep exploding, these stores will definitely exist in the future as well. Now, having said that, we've seen during COVID, a lot of these stores have also digitized themselves and upgraded their operations. So we see record digital payment adoption. We see a lot of these stores participating in hyperlocal platforms as the lines between physical and digital stores is just blurring. Shopping is now physical, online, you don't know the difference, and models like hyperlocal is definitely something that will explode in the future, is what I believe. The second thing, I think, across most of the companies, and I can talk for sales, a lot of sales processes are being digitized. A lot of things earlier which we thought could only be done physically are now happening virtually. So a lot of sales processes are digitized. We are leveraging AI, machine learning to codify a lot of processes, and the adoption has really taken off post-COVID. I think the third one, what has got kind of redefined, at least for the FMCG industry, is supply chains. After the kind of disruption we saw in March and April, I think most companies now have a buttoned up resilience strategy. Everybody's had learnings. So, be it how many network points, how much inventory, etc. Right mix of inventory. I think most companies have now codified their resilience strategy post COVID. So I think these are some of the trends that we see and will be here to stay. So one of the trends that we're seeing post COVID is definitely the demand surge in the urban geographies, and to meet that demand, obviously companies which have a deeper distribution network, who have stable distributors who can carry resilient inventory, right? To be able to make the product available at all times, at the right points of sale, are going to win. So that's why we see a lot of companies now and a lot of startups as well, coming up with rural coverage models. A lot of startups coming up and pitching to companies like P&G on rural coverage, because that's where we see the demand surge. So I think that's the decision that a lot of companies will now be making on how do we get deeper, distribution. Planning horizons now have significantly narrowed, and in fact, if you read a lot of speakers and management gurus, etc., everybody's advice is have shorter planning cycles to deal with the uncertainty. But I think I can speak for P&G for sure. We continue to have a balance. While we are very cognizant of the volatility or the uncertainties that could come our way, but we do have contingency plans and short-term plans. But frankly, whether it be globally in P&G or in India, the innovation pipeline for the future and projects which are upstream, and innovation has been the cornerstone of and heritage of this company, that we continue to invest into on what's the next S-curve of consumer products and unmet needs that we can provide for. So yes, while a lot of contingency planning has gone up in the short-term cycle, we are doing much more than we would normally do, and literally questioning every variable, saying that this could be the range of the variable and what do we do in different circumstances. However, the investment on future innovation is absolutely on track, and we have our innovation master plans chalked out for the next 5-10 years, so that will continue. I think two things stand out. One is obviously the focus on health and hygiene. I think consumers are looking for that in be it food, be it washing detergent, of course sanitizers, but almost everything now has a health and hygiene angle to it. So that's definitely a consumer need that has got amplified in whatever people buy. I think the second one is definitely value. So obviously it's been a rocky financial scenario, and with the number of job losses happening, consumer value is something all companies will have to find a way to serve, because everybody's tightening their belt. So I think that's the second consumer trend that all companies are trying to deal with. How do we provide best consumer value and quality of products, and companies who are successful in doing that will gain market share. And the third consumer trend is around sustainability. We are seeing increasingly consumers want to buy products that contribute to making the environment more sustainable for the future. And once again, companies who offer such options to consumers will definitely gain. So these are some of the consumer trends we are seeing. Be so good at what you do, work hard, that really gender is not even a question. That's my biggest learning, and that's something I strive for. That you create your unique space, you bring your unique USP to the table, and you know your job so well that literally make yourself indispensable. That's the best way for us to progress. So that's the first advice that I'd have. The second one is, please be proactive about your career. Take it in your own hands. Don't leave it for your company or your manager to come and have a conversation with you. Think ahead, plan ahead, communicate. Don't be afraid. A lot of us women, we are kind of a little more hesitant, I feel, than males in clarifying our need very clearly, and what are we looking for, what's our passion, what do we want to accomplish. I would encourage a lot more women to be to have a vision of the future for themselves. It begins with that, and it begins with us. It's about us having a vision of future for ourselves and then communicating it with our companies, our peers, our mentors. So that's very, very important. Don't be a victim of circumstances. Take things in your own hand. And the third one I'll say is, balance out the short term and the long term. Balance out work and life. I think sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. Too much of anything is bad. So yeah, whatever gives you satisfaction, whatever gives you happiness, believe that that's the right choice you're making. And that is the balance. The balance for each person is different, and it's okay. Each of us can have a unique path.